It's been a while since we had game-changing news come out for AMC. We've always had the usual article or two, but nothing to this extent. One user over Twitter has broken down some key information that we will need to know going into next week. On July 30th, the Federal Reserve will be publicly releasing the total derivative exposure numbers of all the biggest domestic and foreign banks. This is important because it will also include their lending clients, which just so happens to be Citadel. The Federal Reserve is auditing the entire financial system thanks to the directive issued via Federal U.S. Code Chapter 12, which was updated July 1st, 2021. Don't take my word for it. Here is the source directly from ffiec.gov, as well as some of the top high finance reporting discussing how this has been in the works since 2019. So why does this matter? Well, the changes to USC Chapter 12, Part 249 established a risk framework for all financial institutions with over $100 billion in total assets. If their FRY-15 report comes up short, showing a lot of risk, then the Federal Reserve Board reserves the authority to force them to recapitalize their balance sheet, meaning all of their risky assets must be sold off until they fall within a certain framework for 4 consecutive quarters. I understand that many of you will be skeptical, but as probably one of the only retail traders to actually read the US Federal Code changes, I challenge you to prove me wrong. The legal speak in the code says that this report is our endgame, and dare I say, MOAS guarantee. There is so much more that retail needs to learn outside of the short squeeze saga to see that payday is right around the corner. We are T-minus 1 week from the collapse of the financial system, and I can prove it. My money is where my mouth is. I'm all in on AMC and GME. Once the Fed sees the numbers, they have given themselves authority to take immediate action on any bank that doesn't have the proper 1. Funding for their assets, or 2. Collateral for their liabilities, simply put as undercapitalized. And the final kicker, once numbers are in, the Fed will immediately exercise Section 38 of the FDI Act, aka Prompt Corrective Action. Essentially, the FDIC will oversee your bank sell-off, and if you refuse, they will do it for you. Just like the disinformation campaigns against AMC and GME, the media is saying that Monday's sell-off was from Delta variant uncertainty. The reality is, the rich are selling off to jump ship before FRY-15 releases next week. Check out the form for yourself. What the Fed is asking institutions to report is groundbreaking and now based on daily averages, not quarterly reports. These numbers will never show up on earnings calls. Let's take a quick moment to address the skeptics. Imagine you're Goldman Sachs. You know this report is about to come out in 2 weeks. This is classic prisoner's dilemma. Since all institutions are reporting, why wait around and attempt an appeal? This is not a new form. The US Code changes to Chapter 12 change reporting from quarterly numbers reported annually to daily averages reported quarterly. Check out 2019's numbers and see how many hundreds of trillions banks are playing with. Mark my words, August 2nd will be Black Monday. My money is where my mouth is. Every dollar I own is in AMC, GME, or HYG. I've even maxed out my credit. I have been unemployed since 2019. If I haven't paid off my wife's house, car, credit card, student loans by August 31st, I get pegged. Do not trust Jay Powell's opinion on inflation. He is not tapering because he is waiting for this report. Do not trust the finance media saying institutions bought the dip on SPY this week. They are exiting markets through dark pools and pumping the price for next week's fire sale. Please help spread this info far and wide. Twitter, YouTube, Reddit, Discord. The AMC and GME community need to know this information. I have several more threads that will help prove my thesis. I will be continuing to release them over the weekend. Expect thread B later today. Here you go. They actively do report this data, but without the non-bank structure activity of $5 billion or more. This is the same stuff you would see on an earnings call. This was a pretty massive update from FinWatchdog. If we had to take the time to look deeper into this, we would be here for weeks. But as he stated on his Twitter post, he will be releasing more content over the weekend, which will be very crucial for next week.
I still don't see what fundamentally is wrong with this picture.
Yeah, of a consumer with the best household balance sheets ever, $2 trillion in savings, more money coming. Listen, buy the dip. It has been easy if you consider this strategy has been so effective since March of 2009. I heard you and Art talking about how short the NBER thought the recession was. Well, we had an even shorter bear market. So people know. And the interesting thing to me, Larry, is the individual investor knows it's better than Wall Street. They're the ones out there, hashtag buying a dip, making more money than they ever made before. And they're going to keep doing it until it doesn't work.
I think the individual investor, the so-called retail investor, Charles, has more horse sense and a better track record than some of the wealthiest hedge fund people that I know.
And they also do investing 101, right? They're not trying to game the market. They're not flipping from value to growth. They find a few ideas that they like, they buy them when they go on dips. You can argue whether you think those ideas are good or not, but guess what? Their track record since last year is crushing. I mean, crushing of Wall Street overall, and I tip my hat to them.
Now, Charles, I don't know. I'm hoping you can see the screen. We're going to put up two charts real quick. I want to make a point.
Okay.
I started this morning with my great friend Stu Varney. Everybody talks about inflation. Inflation is a monetary phenomenon. It's monetary driven, okay? So there's a couple things I want to say. Number one, after soaring, the growth of M2 is now coming way down, Charles. In the winter, it was rising 27% year on year. Through May, it's down to 14%, still high. I think when we get the June results, it's going to be about 7 or 8%. I just want to note that the Fed is not as loose. And the monetary base, which is essentially the Fed's balance sheet, you see exactly the same story. After soaring during the winter, this was part of the relief effort, 58% growth in February. It's now coming way down, 17% in May. I think it'll hit single digits in June. And Charles, one last point here, and I'll let you comment on this, because nobody wants to talk about old-fashioned monetary issues, which really drive inflation, not transfer payments and entitlements and stuff like that. The Fed is taking money out, Charles.
I hope you guys enjoyed today's video and that you found some value from the topics discussed. If you did enjoy it, please smash the like button for the YouTube algorithm, and don't forget to check out the Webull link in the description, as well as my Patreon to stay up to date on all my current buys and sells. Finance Wizard, out.